What is up, everybody? It is a Saturday afternoon in the world of MLB, and thankfully you'll be good hands in here as always at Stokastic. Of course, diving into today's slate, we got DraftKings, FanDuel, we got it all for you here today on Stokastic's channel. I'm Chris Spags. My first time hosting a real Live Before Lock show in a very long time, filling in for Emac, filling in for, I think, Greg Ehrenberg. We're filling in for a lot of guys here, but thankfully, I've got a man who's crushing right now. Man who's had a lot of big wins this year. Man who's been here every weekend as well, grinding away with you guys. My man, Matthew Bellman here, Fantasy Tips Matt on Twitter, or X if you want to call it. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm good, man. Better now that I'm with you. Been a minute since we did a show. Miss our old Sunday morning shows. Those were fun. But yeah, now we get to do a Saturday afternoon show.
Yeah, it'll be a good one today. MLB today, we've got ourselves a 7-gamer starting in about an hour from now, so we'll be able to get you guys all the info you need. Starting off with pitchers as usual. Here, going to talk about some hitters, and I guess one thing I always like to talk about up top here, because a guy like Matt has had a ton of success playing DFS. I'm sure you view the historical. Every DFS slate's a puzzle, and the puzzle's going to be different each time out. Today, it's a pretty unique puzzle where we have 3 pitchers up top. In particular, salary-wise, with Zach Wheeler, Tariq Skubal, and also Brandon Woodruff, who have some real merits going for them. A couple highly projected guys as well, a little bit cheaper. But the builds today, ownership-wise, as you can see on the screen here, Zach Wheeler picking up 52% ownership on DraftKings, Tariq Skubal picking up 44%. People are definitely going to be on a particular path of paying up the pitcher today, Matt. So is there anything you're seeing, I guess, the defining trade of the slate and how you want to approach things?
Oh, yeah, so obviously, you've got 2 elite aces on the hill in Skubal and Wheeler. Both of them look really, really good. There aren't many pitchers better than Wheeler. Skubal's one of them, one of maybe the only one. He's $1,000 more, though, in a tougher spot. And you've got Tanner Bibee projecting similarly to both those guys. A little bit worse, but similarly. So spending up on both Wheeler and Skubal, it can be done. I think people are going to do it, but you're really kind of put in a box and put into a corner, I should say, into what your roster construction can be. Bibee opens a lot of things up. I don't feel nearly as good about him. I'd love to just spend up on Wheeler and Skubal, but anytime you're spending over $20K on your 2 pitchers, that's kind of the benchmark for me. $20K, you're getting up there and you're limiting yourself into what you can do offensively. And if you play Skubal and Wheeler, you're way over, you're 22-4, which is a big number. That's a big number to pay on pitching.
Yeah, are there any builds you have with both guys that I guess that you feel comfortable talking about off the top of your head? Because I think there are some cheap stacks you can go to. Definitely, Milwaukee, a team we'll talk about a lot today. It comes up a good amount in the Sims tool. I think Houston stack, a team that appeals to me based on the matchup, as well as the team total there. They're pretty cheap to get the top 5 or some configuration therein, and I think that at least works to some extent if you are going to try to jam in the top 2 pitchers. But is there like a preferred stack you're getting if you are going to the 2 top pay-up options in the same game today?
For me, you can stack a lot of different teams, almost any different team with the top guys, but you're just not going to be able to get all the hitters you want, and your one-offs, not your one-offs, but your secondary stack or one-offs aren't going to be nearly as good. So I think you can make stacks work with both Skubal and Wheeler. Not every stack, sure, but a lot of stacks. It's just about what you can do around them, and it's not much.
Yeah, I think it's a fair way to look at it. Definitely got some Brew Crew fans here. Our guy Jake in the chat. Glad to see all you guys in the chat as well on this fine Saturday. Hope you guys are doing well this summer. But yeah, I think it's really an interesting slate because you do have really concentrated ownership for Zach Wheeler and Tariq Skubal, and projections as well. Definitely a favoring for Wheeler. And the sim I ran before the show, and actually curious to see if that's the case here. Does seem like it's similar. Zach Wheeler coming up 70% in the top 150 lineups right now for DraftKings. For comparison's sake, Skubal only coming up in 22% of them. So exposure-wise, it seems like the sims are greatly favoring Wheeler. I mean, you're talking almost 3x the amount of Wheeler in the top 150, Matt. Does that affect your process in terms of how you view these guys at all? Like, do you think that Wheeler is a 3x better play than Skubal?
No, no, I don't view. So for me right now, like in my top 150, I'm getting 70 Wheeler and 30 Skubal, and I'm not playing 150. So, these are just the numbers I'm getting. And these are my numbers are skewed, and my settings are skewed to bigger to higher dollar, smaller entry type stuff. So while I don't view him as like a 3 times better play, it's not like each lineup you can't look at it like that. I mean, you can in an outside sense, but when you're talking about one individual lineup, I do think Wheeler is the better play. If I were playing 150, maybe I'd think about getting over the field on Skubal and under on Wheeler, because I do think that Wheeler is going to be more popular. But I think he's the better play because he's in the better matchup and he's $1,000 cheaper.
Yeah, no, I think that sums it up pretty well. And the projections, again, do favor Wheeler. Not by a big amount, by only 0.5 points, according to Stokastic's data team, but definitely enough that stands out when you do account for that extra 1K in savings that Matt mentioned here. We should talk Brandon Woodruff a little bit. We got people talking about our guy, Steven Leibovitz in the chat, worried about Woodruff having a pitch limit a bit. Woodruff is a guy, though, where I feel like his stuff in the last couple of years has taken a pretty big leap, where overall, he's got a 31% rounded up K rate in the last couple of years. Swing strike rate is up there as well. The chase rate, it could be better at 44%, but he's getting the results overall. Some of the strikeouts he's getting. The matchup today versus Washington, it's a low total going against him with 3.7 implied runs, but only 3 guys in that lineup that strike out above league average, which the Washington lineup certainly not anything that's winning any awards this year necessarily, but you have enough competent guys there that I'm not as crazy about Woodruff, and I think any pitch count stuff you'd worry about as well. Certainly be some extra sauce on top to not love him. The Sims are only giving you 1% today going against Washington, Matt. So are you viewing Woodruff as a play at all, or is the price tag too steep for a guy that does have some downside risk?
Yeah, I don't think you can really play Woodruff here outside of like getting to a little bit of him in 150. He's too closely priced to Wheeler and Skubal, and he doesn't project as well, and you've got pitch count concerns. He's a very good pitcher. He's not nearly as good as Skubal or Wheeler, though, and he's got concerns that those guys don't have. He's uber expensive. You could make the case that he's going to be really contrarian. I could dig that. Like, crazier things have happened than Brandon Woodruff throwing a really good game here, but I don't think the squeeze is worth the juice.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way to look at it for Woodruff as well. And yeah, I mean, look, the rates jump out to me. The fact that he does have over a 30% K rate, and facing about 350 batters the last couple seasons, like that's definitely more than in my brain how I've viewed Brandon Woodruff when I've been playing DFS more aggressively a couple of years ago. To see him round into that sort of amount of form this season, I think is impressive over the larger sample size. But I'm with you. There is some risk there. The price tag is still steep enough,
and it's been a very small sample size. To your point,
yes.
Like he's only pitched a little bit so far this year. To your point, his numbers have been really good, but in a very limited setting. So, do we expect him to be good going forward? Yes, but I'm not sure this good is also the other thing we didn't even mention.
Yeah, no, I think that sums it up, I think, pretty well at pitcher for the top guys. So we talked a little about Tanner Bibee. He's a pitcher that I think definitely stands out. You can see sim ownership wise. And sorry if I'm not clicking around enough. I guess let's click to the pitcher ROIs so you can see some different screens. But Bibee overall coming up a good amount in sims. The sim I ran before the show, and I think the same thing here that we got on screen right now. Bibee coming in at 75%. I actually got him at 73 in the top 150 lineups I pulled before the show. And for Bibee, it comes down to the matchup here where he's facing a Minnesota team. 3.2 implied runs with the lowest totals on the slate. The lineup overall is a 25% aggregate K rate. 6 guys in lineup that strike out over league average. I think for Bibee, it's a pretty nice spot overall, and I do think one approach that I liked before the show, ran some single lineup sims, the single lineup simulator tool here on Stokastic. I put Bibee and Yuri Perez together. So don't steal that, guys. It's going to be a winning lineup tonight. But I like that idea of like these guys that have, again, really strong projections coming up a decent amount in the sim, making that my way to get unique. But Bibee's not going to be unique today at all, Matt. So how are you feeling about him? And I guess for you in particular, does it vary based upon single entry stuff versus MME stuff? Because Bibee is coming up in the Sims tool at least 75%. The projected ownership is only about 33%. It looks like.
Yeah, I think he's going to be higher owned than projected because he's so cheap. But it's hard to get away from him here. I didn't play Gavin Williams last night, who was basically in the same spot. He's been a better DFS pitcher. He was very, very good against this Twins lineup. This Minnesota team is just decimated. They dealt a lot of their regulars. They're missing Byron Buxton. Bibee's inconsistent and gets in his own way, so I won't be surprised if he puts some guys on here. And if Minnesota hits a home run with some guys on base, I mean, it could be a bad outing for him. But on paper, it sets up as a really good spot for Bibee, who has been solid, if not spectacular this year. He's just way too cheap for this spot. Yeah, I like Bibee a lot here. He's going to be owned. I don't love that, but, such is life on an MLB DFS slate with, only – there are some interesting contrarian pitching options, but there are only like 3 or 4 guys that you really feel confident in, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I think Bibee coming up 32% owned. He is significantly less owned than the much more expensive Zach Wheeler, the much more expensive Tariq Skubal. So you got that going for you if you are going to go Bibee's way. But I'm with you. I mean, the projection alone, you're talking about a 19-point projection from Stokastic, which you can see on the data hub. I don't have it on this screen. But for Bibee, he's the third highest projected pitcher on the slate. He's ahead of Brandon Woodruff. He's ahead of Merrill Kelly. I mean, I could list the names, ahead of Senga, ahead of Castillo. Like, he's ahead of everybody else ahead of him price-wise. So really, he's the player that'll come up easily. He'll certainly be the guy, I think, in cash games. If you are a sicko playing MLB cash games on a Saturday, I think he's the guy you go to first. But really, I guess the question comes down to exposure really for you, Matt. Are you going more than the field here with the field? How are you viewing him as a play?
I'm only playing 2 lineups today. So
Okay.
I'm playing a couple bigger lineups, and he's definitely in one of them. So I'm going to be over the field because he's at least in 50%, and he couldn't be in 2 of them. I don't mind doing that when I play small, when I only play a limited amount of lineups, which I do a lot when I'm on a show before the slate starts.
Sure.
So still working out my second lineup, but I'm going to be over the field on Bibee. He looks really, really good here.
Yeah, Bibee going to be 42% leverage, it looks like, based on the Stokastic sim we got before the show here. And, of course, you see his results on screen as we go. I do want to talk quickly about some of the other guys here, I guess, that stand out meaningfully. And it does seem like really ownership-wise, it is basically a 3-pitcher slate with these 3 we've talked about, with Skubal, with Wheeler, with Tanner Bibee as well. But Yuri Perez jumps out to me as being an interesting play as well. The Yankees, also a team that, if you're following the sort of media coverage of baseball, you're seeing the Yankees go the wrong way at the stage of things in general right now. And Yuri Perez is a guy that I've liked a lot whenever I've had him on a slate because the price tag's low. He is a guy that comes with some downside risk because he gives up some dangerous power, doesn't generate a lot of ground balls either. His fly ball rate is at 42%. His fly ball rate's at 53.5%. Ground ball rate's a little bit lower, obviously, there than the league average would be. But Perez has good strikeout stuff overall, 25% K rate he's facing as well today. He himself brings a 28% K rate. How are you feeling about Perez? Because I think him and Bibee, I mentioned before, I think it's an interesting way to try to build and get away from the Philadelphia-Detroit game. But Perez, couldn't get lit up if the bats on New York actually do what they're getting paid to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think Yuri is he's not only even, I think he's a better DFS pitcher, a better pitcher than Bibee. No doubt about that. It's just the spot. You get this decimated Twins lineup versus the Yankees. So I get playing both of them. Yuri's too cheap. So I think Bibee is a better play because he projects better. But again, I always like taking a shot on a guy. If you're choosing between them and a guy who's more talented, and that's going with Yuri there, or to your point, playing both of them in a way different roster construction. I'm not going to do that because I like Wheeler a lot here. But if I wasn't playing one of the top guys, that's probably the pairing I would go with because those guys project and are as good at pitchers as basically everyone else more expensive than them outside of Skubal and Wheeler and probably Woodruff. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a way to get different, and certainly, the salaries here with Bibee being 7,500, Perez being 7,300. These guys are close enough as well, where if you do want to make that pivot, certainly you're taking on some risk there, and the projection is, lower for Yuri Perez than it is for Bibee by a good enough amount, where Perez is only projected for 16.8. Bibee's got that 19-point projection from Stokastic's data team, but I still think Bibee has that upside, or that Perez has that upside that Bibee has, and definitely you are going to get much less ownership. And sim-wise, Perez coming up 17% of the time, Bibee coming up 75%, as we talked about. There's a lot of guys in between, Matt, that we could talk about here. Are there any sort of lower-owned plays here? You could see sim-wise, nobody above 10% besides Perez, besides Skubal, besides Wheeler and Bibee. Kadai Senga, Luis Castillo, Woodruff we talked about already, Bailey Ober. Do any of these guys stand out to you as being plays that you want to particularly advocate for?
No, but I don't think they're bad plays either. Castillo is much better at home. He hasn't been great this year. His expected numbers are worse than his actual numbers, but he's been good recently and is always better at home in this ballpark. So he's playable to me. Senga, cheap at 8,300. He's playable. Don't love either guy, but I think all of these guys look similar enough where I don't mind pivoting to one of them off of an owned Bibee if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I think that's obviously tournament-wise, we're going to consider these guys a little bit more. And I guess we should talk about them in a little bit more detail because certainly the sim-wise, I think you're throwing these guys out for the most part. Again, you're getting half the field's ownership on Senga, a little bit above the field, about half the field's ownership on Luis Castillo. Definitely not getting much on Woodruff, not getting much on Ober. But it does feel like Senga in particular would be the most live pivot to make. Overall, he's got a 24% K rate. He's facing a Giants team today that does have 6 guys that strike out over league average. The park factors as well should benefit Senga. I guess my question for you, Matt, is that, and I guess you view it the same way as I do, in terms of at least the talent there, really the strikeout rate for Senga as well being just shy of 28%. You're talking about, top 5 on the slate overall. I feel like he's the most live pivot, but it sounds like you maybe don't have a lean and you might really not be going to these guys a ton.
That's exactly it. That's my big problem. And I respect that Senga call. I just don't know. I don't know who the guy is. I think all of them make sense as a pivot, but when I can't really decipher who the one guy is that I want to pivot to, and Bibee just projects better than all of them, I'm going to play Bibee in most instances. Again, only playing a couple lineups. But if I were playing 150, I'd probably be under Bibee and over on all those other guys. I know that sounds weird, but that's just how I would play it.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a way to play DFS. And if you have the results like Matt has had, in recent months in general over the years as well, that is one thing you could certainly do is if you're willing to absorb the risk, willing to not throw projections out the window, but certainly play the downside on Bibee's projection and the upside on the other guy's projection. I think you make the case for Senga being a guy who, paying up, getting off that beaten path, might be even more unique than Yuri Perez, who I think is, a play that I would play similar to what I would play Senga. But I think for Senga, to me, he just stands out. Matchup seems okay. The price tag is a little bit off the beaten path, going to 8,300 on DraftKings as opposed to 7,500 for Bibee. I think that could be one way to hit, but certainly Bibee looks like the best play by a wide margin, and I think that sums it up. Let's talk about FanDuel real fast here, and I'll pull up the top stacks tool for FanDuel so we can see this data a little more directly. But on FanDuel today, Matt, we have Zach Wheeler, 14% chance to be a top pitcher. Tariq Skubal, 13% chance to be a top pitcher. Between these two on FanDuel, you're talking about incredibly negative leverage here. 22% more ownership expected compared to the rate of Zach Wheeler being your top pitcher. Skubal, 20% more ownership than his chance of being a top pitcher at about 12.6%. So really another spot here where for FanDuel in particular, I like playing things a little bit more generally, like you would talk about, where just maybe take your highest owned guys out, just roll the dice. The other guys, hope one of them gets a quality start. But with Wheeler and Skubal, I guess between these two, would you have a lean on FanDuel where the price difference is not as great as it is on DraftKings, only a $200 price difference? Still favoring Zach Wheeler here.
Yeah, I still like Wheeler more, but it's really tough there because still going to be higher owned, even though the price is the same. And the matchup's slightly better, but it's not like worlds better. And Skubal's the better. I love Wheeler. He's a top 5 pitcher in baseball. Skubal's the best pitcher in baseball. So I think you could – I don't really have a strong take here. I think they're both really, really, really good plays.
Yeah, I think it's tougher to suss these guys out with it being only a $200 difference.
Yeah.
The $1,000, like you talked about, that's a pronounced amount. Wheeler's projected better. On FanDuel, the projection's a little bit closer. The ownership is close enough. I agree. It's pretty much a coin toss. But I would still favor Wheeler as well. I guess it just feels like Skubal might end up being lower owned. I think would be the thing.
Same.
All the data seems like it's pushing you more towards Wheeler.
Agreed. Part of me is like, oh, well, the ownership is closer here. So I like Wheeler more, and because there's only a $200 difference, the ownership is going to be a lot closer. So just give me Wheeler. But these are just ownership projections also. They're not going to be exactly this. And with what I'm seeing across the industry with our tools, Wheeler is being pushed out. Skubal is not.
Yep, I think that's the same way I would view it as well. And we have a similar thing for Bibee on FanDuel as well. He's got a 10% chance to be a top pitcher today. Is a little bit underowned on FanDuel, and I think the chances of a quality start here, given what we talked about here, that Minnesota lineup being pretty bad. I mean, if you go through Minnesota's lineup overall, and I'll just quickly kind of do this to make the point here, you have 3 guys that have an exit velocity regularly over 90. Everybody else hitting a little bit softer, home run power a little bit in the middle of the order. For the most part, you're not worried about that quite as much. With Cleveland's part, it's playing pretty weak on power of the year, about 8% less home runs than you'd expect overall compared to other parts of the league. So for Bibee, to me, I think the spot for him is pretty strong. The chances of a quality start on FanDuel are pretty strong. I would actually favor Bibee a good amount here with him not being crazy owned. Like, it's weird to see him only be 10% owned here, and it'll be 3x as much on DraftKings. And sim-wise, we're certainly getting a ton more on DraftKings as well. But Bibee at 10% on FanDuel, Matt, do you think he would be a play you'd want to get to more than the field, and where he's more unique on FanDuel for sure?
So yes, because it's much more of a pretzel on FanDuel for me, because in a lot of ways, yes, I want to get to him more, but in a lot of ways, no, because I only want to get to him on DraftKings for roster construction. And on FanDuel, I don't really think you need to. So no, I don't want to get to Bibee as much on FanDuel ultimately.
Interesting. So, okay. So you would move away from the kind of
now
really chunked ownership for Wheeler and Skubal. Then.
I have to be transparent in that I haven't built FanDuel lineups. So if I was building out and I was having trouble getting to what I wanted with Wheeler or Skubal, then I would have no problem going down to Bibee. And I think he's the logical guy. But FanDuel's pricing is often pretty loose. So like, I think you can build very well with Wheeler. I'm interested in Bibee because of the ownership, but on DraftKings, I just think the roster construction is the biggest component of it.
Yeah, I think you need the salary on DraftKings, it seems, and on FanDuel. I'm gonna run the sim here because it's one issue that I have here is basically I can't run both sims at the same time for different sites, guys. So for you FanDuel lovers out there, I'm gonna try to run it here in parallel for you guys. But we'll see what the sim has for us, and I guess really it does come down to, like, I love the low ownership that you're seeing for Bibee on FanDuel, but if you don't need him, you don't need him, and it might just be a thing where the sim gives you more Wheeler and Skubal. We'll find that out here. Anything else at pitcher you want to touch on, Matt, in general? I know we're going to kind of look at FanDuel's data here, and I'll read some of it out for you guys that are out there before we get to the top stacks portion of things. And people who are looking for the Rangers lineup, I see Mike here in the chat wondering why we're still waiting for it. Looks like it just came out as well. Don't know if it's anything different, but that's the last lineup we needed. Everything else has been put in. So your lineups are fully confirmed. If you want to build your lineups now, you can. Obviously, there might be some data updates coming from Stokastic too. Sim just loaded here, so let's see what we got. And hey, top lineup here if you want it for FanDuel. Of course, make sure to get your own Sims products from Stokastic right now. Go over there. You guys know the links in the description. You got the link share stuff as well if you want to sign up with any of the sportsbook partners and get a look at what they have on the sportsbooks. Get yourself some promo packages from them. You also end up getting a free month when you email Stokastic as well. So make sure to take advantage of the link share stuff that's in the description. But Tanner Bibee is actually in our top FanDuel lineup. So there we go. Bibee, Manzardo. So it looks like it is a Cleveland-Philadelphia 4-2 stack. But it is Bibee here. Bibee actually in the top 5 FanDuel lineups. Does this surprise you at all, Matt? Because I feel like, I thought it made sense based on the FanDuel ownership, and you made me feel like a bit of an asshole for thinking that Bibee was going to come up. And here he is right now in 6 out of the top 7 FanDuel lineups, it looks like.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. Part of the reason is because we're projecting Bibee really well. We're projecting him like close enough to Skubal and Wheeler, where per our projections, it's like just play Bibee. You know what I mean? Which I get. It makes sense at how we're projecting him. Just play Bibee.
Right. The projection's too good. And obviously, when you are simming anything, that's frankly an important thing that sometimes is hard to talk about throughout the structure of live before lock. But anything you're putting into this, a Sims tool is going to reflect that data back to some extent. And Bibee projects well and projects as like the number 3 pitcher overall. So he's probably going to come up more on FanDuel than he would if things go poorly for him. He doesn't have that median projection.
It's like part of playing DFS and being good at DFS is like knowing, like reading the tea leaves in a sense. And when you play MLB DFS daily, you kind of get good at that. And I know that offensively, we haven't even gotten there yet, but like Milwaukee is going to be higher owned than we're projecting. On the pitching side, Bibee is going to be higher owned than we're projecting because he's just getting jammed everywhere. And it's also a problem of because he's not getting projected for crazy ownership, the Sims like him even more. You know what I mean?
Right. Even though the sim is creating more ownership by existing. So you're in kind of a weird paradox thing. Yeah.
Precisely. It's hard to even exactly. Yes.
We're entering the multiverse when you think about it too much. Yes. Yeah, I get what you're saying with that.
Yes.
So you can see sim-wise here what we're getting for FanDuel. So again, if you are a FanDuel lover, I know we do cover more DraftKings forward here on Stokastic, and I certainly do as well, because much like Matt, I'm playing on DraftKings today for the lineups I'm putting in. But we got Bibee here, 47% overall on Stokastic's top 150 on FanDuel. So coming up 5x the field. So the sim definitely loving Bibee and the projection that they have for him as well. It is about 6 points lower than Wheeler, 4 points lower than Skubal, but certainly high enough to get into a lot of lineups. Zach Wheeler coming up in 28% of the top 150 lineups, Fields at 37. Skubal's at 12% of lineups, Fields at 31. And Senga, Castillo, Perez, Schittler, not coming up very much here. And Perez, I would say appreciably lower than DraftKings, where the $8,800 price tag on FanDuel, not nearly as appealing, it looks like. You could talk me into taking a shot on Perez on FanDuel as well. I'm just in the bag for him today. I just feel like the Yankees are not where they should be, and Perez has good enough stuff to take a look at. But any of these guys, Matt, I mean, again, I feel like we've hit the Bibee part pretty aggressively, but would you take any shots more on Senga, Castillo, Perez, Schittler on FanDuel, given that they are coming up at least a little bit in the sim?
It's almost like the same thing as Bibee. Like, part of me likes them more because they're lower owned, but like the other part of me is like, I just don't think they're great plays. So yeah, if I were playing 150, I'd have no problem getting over the field on those guys where you're not allocating, a lot of your bankroll into one or two lineups. If I were playing one or two lineups, I couldn't get to those guys here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think certainly, again, it comes down to the 150 set like Matt was talking about, versus putting in 1-2 lineups, something like that. So something to keep in mind there. And guys, I do want to quickly give you a little bit of a plug here for a thing that I've been talking about a lot on this channel. And it is apparently the sponsor for this show as well, if I'm reading the Stokastic one-stop shop correctly. DraftKings Best Ball going on right now. DraftKings has been sponsoring a lot of stuff on Stokastic's channel, and you can go check them out right now. DraftKings, if you download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app, of course, a lot of you already have it on your phones, but download it anyway. If you don't have it, go check that out. When you basically would do there is you're competing for a shot at $15 million in total. And when you do that, you are also getting a free entry. So if you put in your first entry, get a second one for free. So that means 2 shots at their $15 million prize pool. And, Matt, I know you've won some big money, but $2 million up top in best ball. I know I talk about it a lot on my content in general. I know if you're as plugged into the best ball streets as I am, but there aren't a lot of $2 million tournaments out there week to week in DFS. And obviously we'll have some big NFL ones coming up. Are you taking any shots at the big prize in best ball this year?
Yeah, I've thrown a few in the lottery. I'm not a best ball bro. I watch some of the vids when I can, but like, I'm just not into it as much as a lot of other people are. I think a big part of that is me being so into MLB DFS. It takes up so much of my time. I'm not as interested in it. And I feel like I love MLB so much. Most people just can't wait for NFL. I can't wait for NFL too, but I'm happy with MLB. The 2 million to first is nuts though. I was with a buddy yesterday who plays a lot of DFS, not like every day, but he likes to dabble, especially in NFL season. And he doesn't really know about best ball, and I was telling him about it and showing him the contest, and he was mind blown. Could not believe it.
And that's the thing too, is guys like Matt's friend will come in and he's going to get his ass kicked probably.
Right.
Year one.
Yes.
That's the unfortunate nature of things. But if you do your prep work, I always give people my 3 rules of thumb, but just try to draft close to ADP if you can. Stack and correlate even more than you would in a DFS slate, because you have try to capture the rising tide of a team over the course of a year. And then also make sure you're playing for week 17. People try to advance those tournaments. Advancing matters, but it's not a cash game. It is a large field tournament that you're trying to get to the finals and get to that 1,000 person finals on DraftKings. So make sure to check them out. Just again, download the app, check out DraftKings, and you guys know the deal. You're already on DraftKings in general, but if you're for some reason only on FanDuel, go to DraftKings, play some best ball. Do that for yourself. Let's talk about some of the top stacks. I guess I'm gonna have to build another sim here. And also, I apologize, guys. My dog is going nuts upstairs. The chat caught it earlier. My wife and kid left while I'm doing the stream, and she's in her crate, and she probably shitting there because she's a 6-month-old dog. So we're doing great, Matt. I know you've got kids in your life. You have a dog too,
and
right?
a dog. Yeah, we have a dog too.
But an older dog, right? You're not
an older dog at this point, but still gets into stuff, and have definitely had those type of shitty problems as well.
Yeah, so she's up there going nuts. I'm hoping she stops at some point, but I think she probably peed.
Side note, I'm sure you feel this too. I don't know when you got your dog, if you got your dog after you had your kid or not, but how much does your relationship change with your dog after you have your kid, if you have your dog before?
So I had a dog from basically when I had a breakup in my mid-20s. So my dog actually had an older dog that passed away in October. We just got our second round here, got a puppy in March. And like, it's different for a couple of reasons. Number one, the old dog would just let Luca, our now 3 and change year old, just do whatever he wanted. Like Luca could grab her, could do whatever. A puppy though just thinks you're playing and wants to jump and scratch. And a lot of shelters apparently recommend not adopting a dog until the kid's 5. Well, of course, our shelter didn't say that, and we were like, I can handle it. I handled 2 tough dogs before, so I'm okay. And my God, having a 3-year-old and a puppy is the worst of all worlds. I really wouldn't recommend it. But then you do have to you have to watch out for the kid and the dog. The kid teaches the dog bad things. The dog then tries to bite them. It's It's a vicious cycle, Matt. So you've traumatized me here by even asking the question.
I apologize. I did not expect you to go down that rabbit hole, but yeah. It was for us, it was like our dog, before we had our daughter, was like everything. And we still love our dog, but it's like it's just different now. And and the dog and our daughter's relationship is it's love-hate. We'll just put it like that.
Yeah, it's like very cute. Like part of the reason we got this dog was that she bonded with Luca, and they were like walking around. It looked like a little Disney movie. And in the second they're together, it's like he's just walking around the house trying to play with his cars, and the dog's trying to eat his cars, and he's like, "Kitty, leave me alone." And our dog is named Kitty, for those who don't know, because it's great irony in this house. But yeah, she's just going fucking nuts, and I'm horrified we don't have to clean up when the stream is over. But we don't have to clean up, Matt, is we have to clean up any stacks, because we got a lot of good stacks today. You can see me loading them up here, and I will pull up the top exposed stacks based on a run of top 150 lineups here with Stokastic's data having been updated while we've been on the show here. And Milwaukee still coming up a ton here, Matt. You're talking about 23% five-man stacks, so 2x the field. More than that. Sorry, that's the leverage. 35% five-man stacks for Milwaukee, so 3x the field there. You're getting 22% more in the field. Really big stand there. The four-man stacks are getting about 3x the field, it looks like. Three-man stacks are getting 2x the field. Milwaukee is the place to live and die today, it seems like, based on the Sims match. So will you be living and dying by Milwaukee, especially with you kind of hand curating some lineups a little more aggressively for the higher dollar stuff?
I'll play some Milwaukee, but I'm not full stacking them, no, because I think they're going to be really highly owned. They're so cheap. They got like price discounts somehow for this spot. Irvin, one of the worst pitchers on the slate, especially if you had against lefties. You've got a $4,300 Yelich. Contreras, like under 4K. This team is just crazy cheap. You can fit them with Skubal and Wheeler. And part of what I was saying before about getting kind of pigeonholed into builds when you do that, a lot of Skubal and Wheeler builds are going to have Andrew Vaughn. So that's just another player. And there's going to be a couple more that like Yelich, Isaac Collins. You're going to be fighting with teams that have similar builds. They're going to project well. So I got no arguments there, but I'd like to get different somewhere. And that's going to be not full stacking in Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. I mean, it's really a ton of ownership here. And the sim I ran before the show for DraftKings ownership. And well, let's see if we can highlight this here on screen as well.
Whenever I see, like, and you're kind of referencing this, like when you run the sims, like almost all the top lineups are Milwaukee. Like when it seems too good to be true like that, oftentimes it is.
Yeah, so you can see the ownership here on screen, the 150 set for Stokastic data right now. You're getting 58% Christian Yelich, so about 3x the field there, almost 3x the field. Contreras, you're getting 52%, fields at 20. Andrew Vaughn, you're getting 46%, fields at 16. Those are your three best hitters, I think, to anybody just kind of eyeballing it. Three guys that have power, decent pop from different sides of the plate as well. You have Bryce Terang, 43% owned. Sal Frelick, 39% owned. Joey Ortiz, 28. Isaac Collins, 23. Blake Perkins, 21. And Anthony Siegler, the guy hitting in the 8-hole who has done absolutely nothing as a 0-0 ISO and 30 at-bats. He's still getting 6% ownership. So
he's going to be owned. Anthony freaking Siegler.
He's going to break the slate. He's due. He hasn't had any power at all in the majors so far. He's going to hit something.
He's due.
How do you even handle this? Like I'll say what I did for the single lineup sims I was playing before. I ended up playing Christian Yelich by himself in a couple lineups. Felt like that worked for me. The builds I was trying to put together on DraftKings, he's cheap at 4,300. So I think the spot's good for him. You're going against a guy in Irvin who, like Matt mentioned, not very good overall, giving up a 220 ISO to left-handed bats, 150 ISO to righties. So he's not good versus righties, but definitely not as egregiously bad as he is versus lefties. I think that plays in the Yelich's hands, so I think trying to one-off him, and this is something the great Jake Hari, if you guys know him, does a lot of stuff still behind the scenes at Stokastic. Back in the day, he was on stream here giving out great takes a lot with me and Josh Engelman when Stokastic first started back as Osmo back in the day. And one thing that he told me that always kind of stuck with me too, things I've learned from him and Alex Baker always in the back of my brain, try to consolidate production. When you see the stack be this highly owned, like maybe you can get away with the smaller stack, maybe get away with a one-off that has production. You could also, I guess, flat fade him entirely. But I like trying to get the one-off production here with Yelich. You could certainly make the case. I think Matt's do the same with Contreras or with Vaughn. But if you had to do something unique here, I guess, to try to do something with Milwaukee, what do you do with them being probably very owned by all the Stokastic users today?
Yeah, I think the best way to go about that is what you said, just playing like Yelich as a one-off. I mean, Yelich is way too cheap, and he's in a really good spot here. So I don't mind playing him, but man, I don't want to eat into all this ownership with Milwaukee. And it's going to be even higher than we're projecting. I know it. In the contest I'm playing, like the big 888 with 400 people or whatever, Milwaukee's going to be really, really highly owned. I don't want to play that. Like, I don't mind Yelich again. Like, he is just way too cheap. And all the guys as a one-off individually are too cheap. But, like, I'm not really trying to play into, like, high Andrew Vaughn, Isaac Collins ownership. It's just not really how I want to play it.
Yeah, the thing is, like, there's a lot of guys that suck, like, on this Milwaukee lineup.
Right.
I think the top four, I mean, Frelick I'm not crazy about either, but at least he's hitting leadoff. But I like Contreras, I like Vaughn, I like Yelich. I think they all have pop. They all have, I mean, Contreras' home runs versus righties are not fantastic. They're a little bit under average, but he's fine enough. Those guys are okay. But like the other guys here, I mean, Collins under a 2% home run rate versus righties. Perkins, same thing. Turang, same thing. Siegler, same thing. Ortiz, same thing. Like, there's just not pop here, and the park factors are okay, but they're not like fantastic. It's not like a great hitter's park. So it feels a little bit like a trap, but obviously the data is the data.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, the one thing I'll say about Milwaukee is the sum of their parts is greater. Like, the whole is greater than the sum of, like, you know what I mean? Like, individually that aren't as good as their whole. They've been good all year, even without, you know, necessarily a lineup full of guys that you expect to beat you. They run also. So, like, they can definitely get here. There's a reason they're the top stack on the board, but I just think they're overowned. And to your point, when you look at the individual hitters in this lineup, like, they're all overowned and none of them are great aside from the guys up top.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's ultimately what it comes down to here. And definitely still, if you're running a sim today, you're running 150 set, you are going to get a lot of the lesser Milwaukee guys. And, you know, maybe that's your pathway to victory. But if they're over 10% owned, and pretty much everybody is, it looks like, besides Siegler. So we'll see how that works out. Do you want to quickly point out too, and it's something that I don't know if the other hosts do it, but I think it might be worth your time based on some stuff I've done before and shows up there for you guys watching. Here's the top lineup right now, according to the Sims, a Milwaukee 5-man stack. So obviously, you know, the top lineup on a Stokastic sim, you don't normally want to take that one straight away because a lot of people see the same thing, will play the same thing and all of that. But it does speak to the fact that there's this much ownership expected from Milwaukee. The sim is giving a ton of ownership. And despite that, the way that the stack is getting, or the lineup here is getting different, it's a Milwaukee 5-man with Contreras, Turang, with Yelich, Collins, and Perkins. But it is going with Castillo and Bibee. So avoiding the two chalky pitchers, decreases some ownership there. Going with one-offs instead seems like a way to do that. Just definitely one way to get unique. Like, even though Milwaukee, like, if you love Milwaukee, and we just talked about a ton of ownership being there, and Matt, you know this as well as anybody, there's always ways to get unique with teams if you want to play them. It's just sometimes ownership looks like a buzzsaw, and I feel like today that ownership looks like a buzzsaw to me.
Yeah, like, if I felt strongly about Milwaukee here, like that strongly, I wouldn't, you know, they're not so highly owned where I would, like, not play them if I really, really like them. I don't really, really like them, though, compared to the other teams on the slate, so I'm not going to eat into that ownership. But to your point, yeah, there are plenty of ways to get different if you want to just play Milwaukee. Play different pitchers, play alone, secondary stack, whatever it might be. Like, if Milwaukee gets there, you're going to need them. It's how you play the guys around them at that point.
And then for what it's worth, on the top stacks tools right now for DraftKings, Milwaukee is your number one stack, but only a 15% chance to be a top stack. Number two is the Mets with 12%. Houston tied with number 3. Houston's one that I definitely would favor, but built them out in the single lineup sim. Felt pretty good about that. Houston, the same game, could be a high scoring environment with 2 bad pitchers in that one. They're also at 11%. So it's not really a big advantage, it looks like, based on the top stacks tool, even though Milwaukee does seem a bit underowned. And then for FanDuel for Milwaukee, you have a 15% chance to be a top stack there as well, but only 1% leverage on there. Still your top stack, though. Mets number 2, Boston number 3 on FanDuel, Houston number 4. We should talk about some of these other teams as well, Matt. And I guess the Mets seem like they're one that's coming up a good amount here. And let's go through and see if we could find how the Mets exposure is looking. Sim-wise, it seems like Stokastic giving you 13% exposure for 5-man Mets stacks, giving you 5% exposure for a 4-man, 6% for a 3-man. So definitely not as noteworthy of a stand as it was for Milwaukee. But the Mets in a situation going against the Giants, I don't think we have a pitcher in for the Giants, but it's
just Kaiwei Tang.
That's right. It's Tang, right? Okay. So, and Tang is not very good for sure, based on the data that I saw before. I don't have in my sheet though, so I can't cite exact stuff. But how are you feeling about the Mets here, Matt? It is a nice total for the Mets as well. Certainly 5 implied runs. Feel like based on negative park factors, kind of an outlier total here.
Yeah, totally. I like the Mets here a lot. They're expensive, so little bit hard to stack, but certainly ways you can make it work. I like pieces of them no matter what. Like Lindor a lot at short. Ronnie Mauricio at third at 39 at 2,900 looks like a really nice value play. So the Mets are definitely in play for me, either as a full stack, secondary stack, one-offs, whatever it is. I like them a lot. I do like Houston more, though, to kind of bury the lead.
Okay, so we'll talk about Houston because I am with you. Actually, think Houston stands out to me as the most appealing given how bad Walker Buehler has been. But Mets-wise, seems like Ronnie Mauricio is going to be the one you get the most in the sim. He's 2,900, a nice value as well. And Mauricio hitting, sixth in the order, certainly not bad. And he has some decent pop, 90 miles of exit velocity overall for him, 90.4. So we're talking a little bit above average. And certainly if it's over 90, I tend to think the guy's at least got some pop in a way that should hopefully help him out a little bit. But Lindor coming up a good amount at 5,500. Juan Soto, I know the single lineup sim put him in a lineup for me because he soaks up some salary at 5,800, and he's been hitting well enough to certainly take the shot here. But any Mets, I guess you would favor if you are building a stack out of these guys, Matt? Obviously, there's some names here like Juan Soto should speak for itself, but who would you want to highlight if you were going to build out the Mets?
Yeah, I think the Sotos and Lindors obviously speak for themselves, but Mauricio, 2,900, I think looks really, really good. Just gives you a cheap piece with upside in the 6 hole. So, yeah, I think he's the one guy outside of the top guys that I'd be targeting.
You don't mind Mullins for some theoretical?
Yeah, I like Mullins also.
Upside?
Yeah, true.
But giving up an outfield spot for him, maybe a little bit dicey, but I think he's got enough upside as well. But Mauricio, much cheaper at 2,900, Mullins at 35. So
I like that little 6-7 right there. So
yeah, it's not bad down there. I mean, again, compared to a team like Milwaukee, I think the bottom of the order for the Mets is a little bit more appealing. Even McNeil, who's fallen off the cliff in recent years, still playable enough at his price tag, but I would favor Mullins for that one. But the Mets coming up a good amount in the sim. Let's talk about Houston, though, because I'm with you. I think Houston's a team that stood out to me as being the most appealing. You have groups there where you can make for Houston and try to pull it up here stack-wise as we go. But Houston coming up, not a lot in the sim. So only 4% 5-man stack exposures. Fields at 6. Got no 4-mans for Houston at all. So that's kind of crazy to see. And a little bit more in terms of 3-mans for Houston. But really the main thing that stands out to me for how Houston looks overall, decent run total, 4.6 implied runs for Houston. Walker Buehler has just been awful. Like his big strength back when he was like good for the Dodgers was he would keep the ball down, would sort of limit fly balls. He's still doing that okay. Like his fly ball rate's only at 34.4%, but he doesn't get guys to swing and strike out, like 8% swinging strike rate, 38% chase rate overall. Both are the lowest on the slate. He's getting up a ton of power to righties at 230 ISO allowed, only striking out 6.5 per 9 versus lefties, a 190 ISO. So like he's getting hit by both sides of the plate pretty hard. And for Houston, you have a bunch of guys with pop up top. Altuve's not going to be one of those guys, but he can get you some steals as well. And he does have second base and outfield eligibility, which is kind of nice for a leadoff guy. Houston, I love. I think the price tag for Altuve, Matt, I feel like is the one thing that like I put him in a couple lineups, didn't feel great about the price, but I think, he made the lineup work well enough and I had money to spend. But like really the 2 through 6, I think feels strong. Taylor Trammell as well, another cheap guy at outfield, hitting from the left side of the plate. Maybe a bit of a risk for him to get subbed out, but I like Houston. So tell me why you like Houston.
I like Houston because I think they have a big upside in this spot. Their lineup is obviously deeper now than it was last week. Pena's not in the lineup today, but he's back. Correa's now in the lineup. Jesus Sanchez has a much-needed lefty. Buehler's not very good. Good ballpark for hitting here. Obviously, Fenway during the day. So an upgrade there for Houston. Ownership is pretty flat on them, and I think they're the best stack on the board, even like not even considering ownership. So the fact that Milwaukee's going to be so much higher owned, give me Houston there. I don't love Altuve's price, but certainly want him in the stack. He's been very good for me when I have stacked Houston. And, leading off, second base is pretty weak today. He's like the only expensive guy in the lineup. I just like what you can build around with Houston. So I like the entire lineup, 1 through 9. Certainly 1 through 5 looks best, but I think 6 through 9 is going to be really low owned. Whereas 1 through 5 is going to get ownership. Because if you're not playing Milwaukee, Houston's the logical place to go as like a pivot, that's also cheap.
Yeah, and I think Caratini probably gets a little bit underplayed at catcher. Not that he's like an exciting player or anything, but if you are like us and you like Houston, I think putting Caratini in at catcher might be a way to drop some ownership there a little bit and get off the beaten path. He and Yanier Diaz were the same price tag. So just one thing that stood out here. I also like the Boston side in this game as well. It feels like this spot, Boston 5.1 implied runs. Colton Gordon, the lefty, who's going to be going up against Boston to start here. Not a particularly strong pitcher either. Doesn't get swing strikes, much like Walker Buehler. 8.7% rate for him. The chase rate's under 40. He's getting barreled 10% of the time, one of the highest marks on the slate as well. How are you feeling about the Boston side? Because I feel like for me, this is a game where I thought you could take stacks from both sides, or at least take a stack plus a one-off. Do you land it all with Boston today?
I'm using pieces of Boston. Full stack's a little bit harder to get to because they're expensive, but I like them here. Again, I like Houston more, but I do like Boston. Romy Gonzalez just absolutely destroying lefties this year. Obviously you got Bregman in the 2-hole. It's a good lineup, so I'm totally with you on Boston being a totally fine stack here, and I think they're a team that will be lower owned.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, Bregman going to pick up some ownership. Looks like he's projected for he was projected for more. It looks like, actually, no, never mind. Sorry. It's come up a little bit. 17% ownership for Romy Gonzalez, 16% for Bregman. Bregman was at 14. So that's why it threw me off here on my sheet. But the exposure coming a little bit less for the top 150 lineups here. The sim does not love Boston, it looks like, but you're still getting some here. These guys are going to be decently owned by the field. Bregman and Romy Gonzalez, who Matt talked about already, coming up a good amount. Ref Snyder, though, over 10% owned. Story over 10% owned. Ceddanne Rafaela also be over 10% owned. And Carlos Del is here. Obviously, the catcher always comes along with the stack. A good amount. He'll be 10% owned, but seems like the sim low on Boston. Let's go back to the stack exposures real fast here and just see who else we got from the sim. So the sim actually given Washington number 3 overall versus Milwaukee. I didn't get any Washington. I have to say they weren't really a consideration for me. We talked earlier in the video, Matt, about the idea of Brandon Woodruff and how he's been good enough. But certainly a guy that could be limited today, and I guess you get some bullpen action. But it's only 3.7 implied runs for Washington. I'm not sure why they're coming up a good amount in the sim, but do you have any lean for Washington, or I guess Washington, Cleveland, Giants, if any of these next 3 coming up stand out to you at all?
Yeah, not really. I mean, Washington, you can make a case that they're lefties. They've got their top of their lineup with Wood and Abrams is really good, and they run. Woodruff isn't getting ownership though, and I'm out on Washington also. Like, I just think you can do better. Sam Fran, I mean, ballpark upgrade, but it's not like a great park for hitting here, and Senga's good enough. I think that if I were going off the board here, I think Cleveland makes some sense against Ober and a now decimated Twins bullpen. So I think Cleveland out of the bottom group of teams makes some sense.
Yeah, Cleveland definitely coming up here, number 4 overall for the sim. And we can look at their lineup exposure here right now as well, because we got time, and why not? So let's filter this out. We're going to see Bibee, obviously the number 1 owned Guardian by a wide margin. No surprise there. But Jose Ramirez coming up 25%. Stephen Kwan at 12%. In terms of sim exposure, much more than the field's 9% and 6% for those 2 guys. You're not getting quite as much Manzardo. You're above the field there. Schneemann also not coming up a ton. Arias not coming up a ton. But it does seem like Ramirez is a one-off, seems like a popular play. So, it could be one of those things where you take the stack here, just try to get some more production on Cleveland's side. Maybe that's a way to get different. Any stacks for you that you consider today, Matt, as leverage against some of the chalky pitchers we've talked about, in particular that Philadelphia-Detroit game where people are going to be playing a lot of Wheeler, a lot of Skubal? I guess let's talk about those 2 guys first. Are you playing any Detroit, any Philadelphia, given the low totals there? But in fact, you do get really direct leverage on the field, more than you might on most slates.
Yes, but you also are paying full freight for both those teams. Both of them have the lowest top value percentage on the board. So I don't know, man. Like, I can't really justify paying, 52. Harper's the highest first baseman on the board. Schwarber's the most expensive outfielder. Turner's the most expensive shortstop. Like, even if you're not playing Skubal, because he's so expensive, I don't think Philly breaks him here. I mean, sure, they could get to the bullpen. Weird stuff can happen, but they're so expensive that I just don't really see it. And then Detroit, pretty much the same thing. I think they make a little more sense because they are a slight bit cheaper and you're getting more ownership on Wheeler, and Skubal is just a little bit better than Wheeler, but it's it's a small line for me there. I don't really see it. If I were playing 150, would I want to get a little bit of these teams? Sure, but I also wouldn't mind if I got 0.
Yeah, you can see on the screen now for you guys watching at home, Philadelphia, you're not really getting any black players at all here. You're getting Wheeler, obviously, a ton, which is not a surprise given what we talked about. And in fact, the exposure for Wheeler still holding at 70% with the field at 54. You're getting Harrison Bader 1%, Real Muto 1%, Trey Turner and Edmundo Sosa under 1%. So those guys are not coming up very much right now for Philadelphia. The trade on their side in terms of the sim top 150, you're getting Skubal, really not a lot here. The sim is down to 14% in Skubal, which surprises me a little, but you're really not getting any hitters at all. Perez and Green. I mean, look, projection-wise, I get it. Data-wise, I get it. The sim doesn't seem like it's going to push people towards these leverage stacks at all. So maybe there's something there, but like definitely on paper, there's nothing really. The game theory is really the main thing you're looking for. How about going against Bibee? It's not happening sim-wise either. It looks like Minnesota, you're getting nobody above 2%. So the sim not going there. I feel like stacking against Bibee would be more natural, but not coming up, it looks like data-wise here.
Yeah, pretty easy way to use Wheeler and Skubal if you want to just stack against Bibee here and use Minnesota. Like, well, they're not likely to get to him because they're not very good, but Bibee is inconsistent, to put it mildly, and they're still major league. Most of them are major league hitters, so I don't have any like much endearing to say about Minnesota other than that they're crazy cheap, and Bibee's going to be very highly owned. So yeah, out of like those 3 teams, much more interested in Minnesota than Philly or Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, and Wallner and Clemens have pop. I mean, both guys have over a 5% home run rate versus righties. Royce Lewis has some as well. He's got a 5.3% rate. Like, Minnesota's not a good team. Like, there's nothing they do that's particularly strong. They don't actually get hits a lot. They don't get on base enough. Like, all that stuff. They strike out more than they should. But, like, I think it surprises me that there's no anti-Bibee stacking here, given how much Bibee ownership you're getting. Like, if you're going to play 75% Bibee, I would play 5% Minnesota stacks and hope you just get, like, if you're 150 putting, maxing things out, I think you should probably try to get some Minnesota today, even though it's not coming up at all here.
I agree. I couldn't agree more, actually.
I'm surprised by that one.
And like, if you're not using Bibee in a lineup, I don't mind using one-offs from Minnesota, specifically the guys you just mentioned.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me. Let's filter out pitchers here and to see top-owned hitters, and we can just do some quick thoughts on that. And I guess we could try to do home run. Apparently, you don't like the Dong of the Day song, which I know, Matt. Like my bits, they don't always convert as well if Emacs doing them. But the Dong
that's all it is. I love your bits. You know how much I love the puppet. The Dong of the Day.
You usually love my bits, so it hurts me that Emac is somehow losing something in translation. You don't like the Dong of the Day song.
It's all Emac.
Let's blame him. He's on vacation, so he won't know. He's not watching the stream like he normally
I'm
does.
sure he might be.
All right, let's look at our top hitters before we give our dongs of the day here and call it a day. And Matt, are you good on lineups? Do you have to stall for you at all, or you got your shit in?
No, yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we got. Let's look at our highest exposed guys here. So exposure again, really favoring Milwaukee. Your 6 highest owned players in terms of hitters are all Milwaukee Brewers. Yelich, Contreras, these guys are over 50% owned right now in Stokastic Sim. In terms of the field ownership, they're more like 20%. So field will be playing them less, but they're coming up a good amount in the top 150 lines for Stokastic. And besides that, you're getting Bryce Sarang, number 4, Andrew Vaughn at number 3. These guys are above 40% owned in the Sim. Sal Frelick coming up over 30%. Joey Ortiz over 25%. Then after that, it's the guy Ronnie Mauricio, who Matt so brilliantly highlighted before for his low salary and a pretty nice spot for the Mets based on their total. Jose Ramirez coming up a good amount. Isaac Collins, but it's Milwaukee. I mean, you have 6 guys from Milwaukee. It really just feels like a day somebody's going to win all the money, but it's not playing Milwaukee. It's coming up too much.
I agree. It's just coming up way too much.
It's too much. Anyway, dong of the day. Do we have graphics for this? I think we do. I don't know where anything is on these various channels, which is where it's going to mess me up. So I can't flash the dong of the day graphic. Hold on. I'm trying to find. I know it's in here because Eric has pulled it up when I've been on stream with him, unless they just got rid of it because I've been doing baseball streams. So he's on Eric's stuff. I got all sorts. Yeah, here's a fun Eric. I'm just gonna pull up random graphics until I find something here. Here we go. Be like Lindy. Matt, are you going to be like Lindy and join Tales today?
Yeah, I might just be.
You got to. I think. Who doesn't want to be like Lindy? That's what we always say here.
Right.
All right, I'm checking miscellaneous.
That is what we always say here.
Yeah, that's the catchphrase of Stokastic. Yeah. That's like on the family crest of Stokastic. All right, MLB strategy. Where would this fucking graphic be? Like there's so many graphics in here. this doesn't even work anymore. All right. Well,
these are the behind the scenes that people love, though.
I know. Well, because again, like I don't produce a lot. I produce the best ball show, guys, but like I don't have to click a lot of stuff here. There's not a lot of graphics for me to do on it. I haven't produced an actual Stokastic stream in a while, and I gotta say, I got no clue where this dong of the day graphic would possibly be. But it is a dong of the day, etc. Dong of the day, dong of the day, dong of the day, blah blah blah. Who do you have to hit a home run today, Matt? Because we've covered everything else. We've covered the pitching, we've covered the hitting, we've covered DraftKings, we've covered FanDuel. Who do you have hitting a home run today?
Let's go to that bottom of that Houston lineup and go with Cam Smith in the 7 hole. It's going to take Buehler Yard. I think 6 through 9 on Houston is really low owned, and they're not as good as the 1 through 5 guys, but they're in the same exact spot. They're not bad. They're cheap, and they're going to be unowned. I like the 6 through. I like the wraparound stack on Houston.
All right, so
time out. Like you'll appreciate this. The problem with Milwaukee is everyone's getting ownership. So you can get different by doing stuff around them that's different, but you can't get different by playing Milwaukee. You can get different playing Houston by playing the bottom of Houston's lineup.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you get different just by playing Houston, but you're bumming me out because I played a couple of Houston stacks. I did not put Cam Smith in any of them.
He was just a random, like there's no method to that madness.
I hope so. So I'll go with another Houston guy. I mean, my pick would be Christian Yelich, but I don't think we want to pick one of the chalkiest players in the slate. So I'll go a different way. I'll go to another Christian Walker. He's hitting the 4 hole for Houston, does have overall 4.4% home run rate versus righties. And like I mentioned earlier, Walker Buehler getting strafed by right-handed bats, giving up a 230 ISO overall. One of the worst marks that you'll have in any slate out there. He doesn't strike guys out. I'm very much into Houston today, and they're a team. I was glad to hear Matt, who I really respect as a DFS player, like one of the few guys that's like just been killing it on and on as we get into the sim era of everybody just dominating the sims. But I think for me, this Houston stack looks good, but Christian Walker will be my guy, Cam Smith, your guy. And now let's watch Houston put up no runs today, Matt.
As expected.
That's the way it goes. But appreciate all you guys watching. I haven't pandered for likes at all here, which I should do so people know you guys actually want to see content like this. So please do hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel, Show Stokastic. That Matt and I did a good job today. It's always a pleasure for me to be on shows with Matt. I'm a guy who has, again, crushing DFS. You should be following him on Twitter, @FantasyTipsMatt, checking out all his content. But Matt, anything you want to plug here? Anything you want to say down the home stretch while we have, you got 7 minutes to get your lineups in, but we can, just kind of bullshit for a minute here.
Yeah, we're pretty good on time. Not really. Always love doing shows with you, man. Fun time as always. As I mentioned earlier, missed our Sunday morning show. So glad we got to run it back today. Hopefully we get to do a couple more of these in the near future.
Yeah, same here, man. But again, Matt, I think you're really good at what you do, and you're really good as a DFS player. And frankly, there's a lot more people doing more content than DFS play these days, myself included. So glad to be on here with a legit sharp guy like Matt here. Make sure to check out all the stuff on Stokastic as well. You guys saw some of the top stacks data, some of the Sims tools as well. You get that for yourself. You could use the link share tools, sign up for a Sportsbook, get yourself access for free. But it's all linked in the description. Of course, go check out Stokastic yourself if you want to go see the packages that are available right now. And also make sure to go check out DraftKings Best Ball. I do streams here on the Stokastic channel, 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. Or it's not 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Jesus, 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm on around the clock for Stokastic, but no, I am here on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern doing best ball drafts on DraftKings. It's been a lot of fun doing that, partnered with them this season. And DraftKings really does give you a lot when you are playing best ball. If you put your first entry in, get a second one for free. And that's something where in best ball, the more EV you get out of getting free entries in, the more you're going to make out of it, because best ball is really a large lottery. And your goal is to build really nice lottery tickets for yourself. But on DraftKings, you get that second entry for free. And that's really the big thing there when you are putting in your first one. So check it out. If you're playing MLB today, use $20, do the Millie Maker on DraftKings and take a shot there. But that's the show for today, guys. Appreciate all you guys bearing with me. My first show producing here, having to show this stuff live on stream, but I do appreciate all you guys hanging out for that journey, and glad to see Matt here as well. Pleasure hanging out with you too. Any final words, Matt, before we call it quits and I go see how much shit my dog has left upstairs?
Yeah, I don't envy you for your position that you're going to be in after this show, but such is life. I mean, that's part of having kids and a dog, is dealing with shit. Both literally. Yeah, as you know.
Mounds and mounds of it, guys. Hopefully there's no shit in your lives this weekend, guys. Appreciate all you being here. I'll see you again soon. Enjoy your days. Good luck, and go kill it in MLB like Matt does. All right. Bye, guys.